The council chamber stretched high above the assembly floor, its walls made of crystalline material that caught and reflected light from a dozen different suns. Ambassador HFY stood at the center podium, her hands steady despite the weight of what she was about to say. Around her, representatives from 43 different alien species watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright contempt. Counselor raised one of his four arms, and the chamber fell silent. The reptilian leader's scales gleamed under the bright lights as he spoke in the common galactic tongue. The human delegation has requested this emergency session. We grant them 5 minutes to respond to our generous offer. HFY almost laughed at the word generous. She glanced down at the data pad in her hand, reading the Council's ultimatum one more time. Surrender 70% of Earth's resources. Accept Council governance. Submit all military forces to Council command. Do it all within 30 days or face what they politely called corrective action. Honored Council members, HFY began, her voice clear and calm. Earth has reviewed your proposal carefully. After thorough consideration, our answer is no. The chamber erupted. Alien voices rose in a cacophony of surprise, anger, and disbelief. Some species hissed, others clicked or bellowed. Slammed his largest fist on the council desk, creating a boom that echoed through the vast space. Silence, commanded. He leaned forward, his yellow eyes fixed on HFY. You reject our offer. Do you understand what you are doing, human? Your species has been part of galactic society for barely 15 years. You occupy a single planet in a minor star system. We are offering you protection, guidance, and a place in our civilization. At the cost of our freedom, HFY replied. We did not survive and grow as a species by surrendering to those who would control us. Our answer remains no. Chancellor, the Council's military commander, stood up. His species resembled large insects with multiple compound eyes and mandibles that clicked as he spoke. This is foolishness. We have 500 warships. You have what? 20. 30 poorly armed vessels. You cannot resist the Council's will. We don't need to match your numbers, HFY said quietly. We only need to defend our home. Laughter rippled through the chamber. His mouth opened in what passed for a smile among his kind. Very well, human, you have made your choice. The Council will respond accordingly. Our fleet will arrive at your solar system in 14 days. Perhaps when you see our power firsthand, you will reconsider. If not, he made a dismissive gesture with one hand. Well, every species eventually learns the cost of defiance. HFY bowed slightly, a gesture of respect that held no submission in it. Then we will see you in 14 days, Counselor. As she left the chamber, HFY activated the secure communication device hidden in her collar. This is Ambassador HFY to command. The Council has taken the bait. Operation Phoenix Rising is approved. Halfway across the galaxy, in the asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter, Captain Wu received the encrypted message. He stood on the bridge of the warship Defiant, one of 30 vessels humanity had openly admitted to possessing. What the Council didn't know was that 70 more ships waited in the shadows, built in secret over the past decade in hidden shipyards carved into the largest asteroids. All stations, this is the captain, Wu announced. We have received authorization. Begin final preparations. All personnel to battle stations in 12 hours. His second officer, a young woman named Wu, looked up from her console. Sir, the Council fleet is mobilizing. Our scouts confirm 500 ships just as they claimed. Good, Wu said. Let them come with their 500. They'll learn that numbers aren't everything. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, in a facility that didn't exist on any official map, engineer Sangwoo put the finishing touches on humanity's secret weapon. The plasma lance had taken 5 years to develop, combining human innovation with technology reverse-engineered from captured Council equipment. The aliens thought their shields could stop any attack. They were about to learn otherwise. How's it looking? Asked Admiral Yang, watching from the observation deck above the massive weapon array. "Perfect, sir," Sang-woo replied, not looking up from his work. "The lances are installed on both Martian moons and in the asteroid belt. When the Council fleet enters the kill zone, we'll tear through their shields like paper." Yang nodded slowly. He was an old soldier, with gray hair and scars from the early skirmishes when Earth first made contact with hostile aliens. He had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. "Make sure every lance is calibrated perfectly. We'll only get one shot at surprise." On Earth, in the Defense Command headquarters buried under the Rocky Mountains, screens showed the Council fleet beginning its journey. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, confident and unhurried. They saw this as a simple police action, a quick lesson to teach the upstart humans their place in the galactic order. Lieutenant sat in her fighter cockpit, running through pre-flight checks for the 100th time. Her squadron, the Vanguard, consisted of 36 pilots in small, fast ships designed for close combat. Council vessels were massive and powerful, but they were slow to turn, slow to react. Human fighters could dance around them, striking weak points and vanishing before the aliens could respond. "All pilots, listen up," came the voice of her squadron commander. "We've been training for this our whole careers. Remember what they taught us at the academy. The aliens think we're primitive. They think we'll panic and run. Show them what humans do when we're cornered." Smiled, her hands steady on the controls. "We fight back," she whispered to herself. Back in the asteroid field, Captain Wu gathered his senior officers in the briefing room. A holographic display showed the solar system, with markers indicating where Council ships would likely emerge from faster-than-light travel and where human forces waited in ambush. "They expect us to defend Earth directly," Wu explained, pointing to the planet's position. "Instead, we let them come to us. They'll pass Jupiter, thinking they've won before the battle even starts. That's when we hit them from the asteroids and Mars simultaneously. Admiral Yang will coordinate the overall assault from command. Our job is to make sure not one Council ship reaches Earth." "What if they break through?" asked one officer. Wu's expression hardened. "Then we make them pay for every meter of space they cross. But they won't break through. We've prepared too long and too well for this." As the meeting ended and officers returned to their ships, Wu stood alone in the briefing room looking at the holographic Earth. Humanity had always been the underdog fighting against impossible odds, but humans had a gift that no other species seemed to possess. They adapted. They improvised. They survived. The Council was about to learn why humans had clawed their way to the top of their own planet's food chain, and why they weren't about to surrender that position now. In 14 days, the galaxy would change forever. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system in a display of overwhelming force. 500 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the distant light of the sun. Each vessel was massive, some stretching over 2 kilometers in length, bristling with weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds. Chancellor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inevitable, watching the tactical displays with satisfaction. "Begin scanning for human vessels," he ordered. "Let us see what pathetic resistance they can offer." His tactical officer, a creature with 6 eyes and tentacle-like appendages, worked the controls. "Sir, I'm detecting approximately 30 human ships near Earth orbit. They appear to be retreating toward their moon." His mandibles clicked in amusement. Already running, as expected. These humans talked boldly in the Council chambers, but now they see reality. "Maintain current speed. We will be in weapons range in 6 hours." What didn't see were the 70 ships hiding among the asteroids, their power signatures reduced to almost nothing, painted with special coatings that made them nearly invisible to Council sensors. And he certainly didn't see Commander Wu, who sat quietly in the darkened bridge of her stealth ship Shadow, watching the Council fleet pass by like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Steady, Wu whispered to her crew. Let them get deeper into the system. The Admiral wants them past Jupiter before we move. Her tactical officer nodded. They're heading straight for the kill zone, Commander. They have no idea we're here. On Mars, in the hidden weapons facility, Engineer Sangwoo watched the same displays. The plasma lances were ready, each one aimed at precise coordinates in space where the Council fleet would be in 3 hours. The weapons drew power from massive reactors buried deep in the Martian crust, enough energy to punch through any shield the aliens possessed. All lance stations report ready, Sangwoo reported to Admiral Yang. Targeting solutions locked in. Yang studied the tactical situation from his command center on Earth. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The Council ships were arrogant, not even bothering to send scouts ahead or watch their flanks. They had conquered so many primitive species that they expected Earth to simply roll over. All units, this is Admiral Yang, he broadcast on the encrypted channel that connected every human ship and weapon platform. Hold positions. Wait for my signal. We strike when they reach marker Delta 7. Lieutenant and her fighter squadron waited on the far side of Earth's moon, engines cold, systems on minimal power. Her hands itched to grab the controls and launch, but discipline held her in place. The Admiral had drilled them endlessly on the importance of patience. Strike too soon, and the enemy could adapt. Strike at the perfect moment, and you could win a battle in seconds. Vanguard Squadron, this is Vanguard Leader, spoke quietly into her comm. Remember your training. When we go fast and hard. Target their sensor arrays first, then their weapon systems. Make every shot count. 35 other pilots acknowledged, their voices calm despite the tension. The Council fleet continued its advance, passing Jupiter without incident. Watched Earth grow larger on his screens. The planet looked so small, so vulnerable. One world against the might of the galaxy. This would be over quickly. Sir, should we hail the humans and offer them one final chance to surrender? Asked his communications officer. Considered it. No, they had their chance at the Council. Now they will learn what happens to species who refuse the Council's guidance. Prepare to fire on their moon base first. A demonstration of our power should make them more cooperative. What didn't know was that the moon base was almost entirely automated, with only a skeleton crew that had already been evacuated. It was bait, nothing more, designed to draw the Council fleet into the exact position Earth needed them to be. Fleet has reached marker Delta 7, reported Captain Wu from his position in the asteroid field. All ships report ready for engagement. Admiral Yang took a deep breath. This was it. Humanity's future would be decided in the next few minutes. All units, he said clearly, execute Operation Phoenix Rising, fire at will. The space around Mars erupted with light. 12 plasma lances, each one powered by a dedicated fusion reactor, fired simultaneously. The beams of superheated plasma and accelerated particles crossed millions of kilometers in seconds, striking the Council fleet's rear guard with devastating precision. The alien shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, simply couldn't handle the hybrid nature of the plasma lances. The beams punched through shields like they weren't there, cutting through ship hulls and detonating reactors. 15 Council ships exploded in the first salvo, and 20 more tumbled through space with catastrophic damage. What was that? Roared, his previous confidence evaporating. Where did that attack come from? Mars, sir, his tactical officer screamed. They have weapon platforms on Mars. Our shields are ineffective. Before could respond, the asteroid field came alive. 70 ships that hadn't existed on any scan suddenly lit up their engines and weapon systems. Commander Wu led the charge, her squadron of stealth ships accelerating to attack speed in seconds. Shadow Squadron, break and attack, Wu commanded. Target the command ships, make them afraid. The human ships were small compared to the Council vessels, but they were fast and maneuverable. They wove through the alien formation like sharks among whales, firing precision strikes at weapons ports, engine clusters, and communication arrays. The Council ships tried to track them, but their massive guns were too slow, designed for ship-to-ship combat at long range, not for the close-quarters knife fight the humans had forced on them. Lieutenant's fighter squadron launched from the moon, adding to the chaos. 36 small fighters screamed into the battle, each one piloted by someone who had trained their entire adult life for this moment. They moved in perfect coordination, like a school of fish, breaking apart and reforming, always moving, never giving the aliens a clean shot. Vanguard 3, take out that sensor array on the big one, called out, rolling her fighter to avoid incoming fire. Copy Vanguard leader, going in. Watched as her wingman dove toward a massive Council battleship, fired 2 precision missiles at its primary sensor cluster, and banked away as explosions blossomed across the alien ship's hull. Blind and confused, the battleship fired wildly, hitting 2 of its own escort vessels. The battle had turned into absolute chaos. The Council fleet, designed for organized warfare against inferior opponents, couldn't cope with the 3-dimensional ambush. Ships collided as they tried to maneuver. Weapons fire intended for human fighters struck other Council vessels. The perfect formation dissolved into a panicked mess. Captain Wu's ship, the Defiant, targeted a Council heavy cruiser that was trying to organize a defensive formation. All batteries, fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark. The Defiance hurled tungsten slugs at a fraction of the speed of light. The Council ship's shields flickered and failed under the sustained assault, and the projectiles tore through its hull like tissue paper. The cruiser listed to one side, venting atmosphere and debris, effectively out of the fight. From Mars, the plasma lances fired again, this time targeting the Council flagship. Watched in horror as 3 beams converged on his ship. The inevitable shields held for exactly 2 seconds before collapsing. The beams carved through the massive vessel, cutting it nearly in half. Abandoned ship, screamed, scrambling for an escape pod. All ships retreat, retreat. The Council fleet, or what remained of it, broke and ran. Ships engaged their faster-than-light drives in random directions, desperate to escape the killing zone. Some didn't make it, caught by human missiles or plasma lances as they tried to flee. Others collided with each other in their panic. When the battle ended, less than an hour after it began, 300 Council ships limped away from Earth's solar system. 200 others floated dead in space or tumbled toward the sun, their crews dead or dying. Admiral Yang watched the enemy retreat from his command center. Around him, his staff stood in stunned silence. They had won. Against overwhelming numbers, humanity had won. Send a message to all ships, Yang said quietly. Well done, but this is just the beginning. The Council won't accept this defeat. They'll come back with more ships, more anger, more determination. We need to be ready. Commander Wu brought her stealth ship alongside one of the damaged Council vessels, scanning it for intelligence. Admiral, you should see this. These ships are carrying documentation about the Council's military deployments, fleet positions, ship classifications, everything. Yang allowed himself a small smile. Download everything. The Council wanted to teach us a lesson. Instead, they just gave us the keys to their entire military. In the wreckage of battle, humanity had proven something important. They weren't weak, they weren't primitive, and they definitely weren't going to surrender. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so chaotic. Species representatives shouted at each other in dozens of languages, while Counselor tried unsuccessfully to restore order. The news of the fleet's defeat had spread through the galaxy in hours, and every member species wanted answers. How could 500 ships lose to 30? Demanded one delegate, a floating creature that communicated through color changes on its translucent skin. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They had hidden ships, snarled. They tricked us, they outfought us. interrupted Counselor, a humanoid species with gray skin and large eyes. Perhaps we should admit the truth. We underestimated them. Turned his yellow eyes on. Do not speak of things you don't understand. The humans got lucky, nothing more. We will assemble a larger fleet and every screen in the council chamber suddenly flickered to life, cutting off mid-sentence. The image of a human woman appeared, sitting calmly at a desk with Earth visible through a window behind her. She wore a simple military uniform with insignia the council had never seen before. "Good day, honored members of the Galactic Council," Director De said in perfect galactic common tongue. "My name is Director De of Earth Intelligence. I apologize for interrupting your session, but I thought you should know that we've been listening to your meetings for the past 10 years. The chamber erupted again, but De continued speaking, her voice cutting through the noise. "In fact, we've been listening to everything. Your military communications, your diplomatic channels, your private conversations. We know about your fleet deployments, your resource allocation, your strategic plans, and your secrets." On the screens, documents began appearing. Military reports, strategic plans, private communications between council members discussing how to exploit their own member species. Every piece of information was genuine, by timestamps and encryption keys that only the council should have possessed. Stood frozen, his scales turning a darker shade of green that indicated fear among his species. "This is impossible. Our encryption is unbreakable. Our quantum communication networks cannot be intercepted." A new face appeared on the screens, a younger man with glasses and a slight smile. "Hello, council members. I'm scientist Wu Jin from Earth's Quantum Research Division. I'd like to explain how we broke your unbreakable encryption." For the next 5 minutes, Wu Jin explained in simple terms how humanity had studied every piece of council technology they could get their hands on, reverse-engineered it, improved it, and then used it to infiltrate every major council communication network. The aliens had been so confident in their superiority that they never imagined a species barely 15 years into galactic society could match their technology. "But the real question," De said, returning to the screen, "is what we do with this information. We could release it all publicly, every dirty secret, every exploitation, every lie the Council has told its member species. Or—" She paused, letting the word hang in the air. "Or we could work together, not as master and servant but as equals. Earth proposes a new relationship with the galaxy, one based on mutual respect and cooperation, not submission." Before could respond, Ambassador Haywon walked into the council chambers through the main entrance. She had been waiting outside, timing her arrival perfectly. The guards tried to stop her but stood and gestured for them to let her pass. "The human ambassador has the floor," declared, ignoring sputtering protests. Haywon walked to the center podium, the same place where she had delivered Earth's refusal weeks earlier. This time, the aliens didn't laugh. They listened. "Members of the Council," Haywon began, "Earth doesn't want war. We never did. But we also won't accept slavery dressed up as protection. We know about the 43 member species of this council. We also know that only 7 of those species have any real power. The rest of you are subjects, not partners." She pulled up holographic displays showing resource extraction rates, military conscription records, and economic data. Species after species showed the same pattern, their resources flowing to the Council's elite while they received minimal benefits in return. "The Kelvin people," Haywon pointed to one set of data, "provide 60% of the Council's rare minerals. In return, you receive protection that mostly consists of being forced to send your children to fight in the Council's wars. The species builds most of the Council's ships but owns only 5% of the fleet. The pattern repeats across most member species." Delegates from the species she mentioned began talking among themselves, some angry, some surprised to see their situations laid out so clearly. Counselor slammed his fist down again. This is propaganda, lies designed to divide us. Then explain these documents, HFY replied calmly, sending files to every delegate's personal terminal. These are your own reports, written by your own analysts, describing how to maximize resource extraction from member species while minimizing their political power. Should I read some excerpts aloud? Silence fell over the chamber. Had no answer because the documents were real and everyone knew it. Stood again, this time walking to stand near HFY. I have a confession to make to this council. For the past 5 years, I have been sharing information with Earth, not to betray our alliance, but to save it. The council has become corrupt, exploitative, and unjust. The humans showed me that there is another way. Traitor, roared, but other delegates were standing now, their expressions thoughtful rather than angry. HFY raised her hand for quiet. Earth offers an alternative. Join us in forming a free worlds coalition. Every species equal, every species with full control over their own resources and military. We share technology, we defend each other, but no one rules over anyone else. True partnership, not domination. And if we refuse? Asked one delegate, a being made mostly of crystalline structures that reflected light as it spoke. Then we part ways peacefully, HFY said. Earth will defend its solar system and any species that wish to join us, but we won't force anyone. We're not trying to build an empire. We're trying to prevent one from controlling us. Over the next hours, the council descended into chaos. Delegates argued, formed groups, made calls to their home governments. Some species immediately expressed interest in Earth's proposal. Others remained loyal to the traditional council structure. A few tried to play both sides, waiting to see which would prove stronger. During a recess, HFY met privately in a secure room. The alien looked tired but relieved. Thank you for your help, HFY said. Without the information you provided over the years, we would never have been ready for the council's attack. Made a gesture that was the equivalent of a human nod. My species has been part of the council for 300 years. We've watched it slowly change from a genuine alliance into something else. When we first made contact with Earth, I saw hope. A young species with fresh ideas and the courage to fight for their beliefs. I had to help. What will happen now? HFY asked. The council will fracture, predicted. Some species will join you, others will cling to the old ways, and some, like people, will see this as a threat to their power and dominance. They will try to destroy you. Let them try, HFY said quietly. We've already proven we can defend ourselves. Back on Earth, Admiral Yang received reports from across the galaxy. 7 species had already sent diplomatic missions requesting meetings about the Free Worlds Coalition. 3 more were considering it. The Council's unity was breaking apart. This is good news, Captain Wu said, reading the reports over Yang's shoulder. But the Admiral is right. The Council's ruling species won't accept this easily. No, they won't, Yang agreed. This intelligence suggests they're already assembling a second fleet, bigger than the first. They'll want revenge and to make an example of us. In his laboratory on Mars, Engineer Sangwoo was already working on improvements to the plasma lance system. If the Council was bringing more ships, humanity would need more firepower. He had some ideas about that. Lieutenant attended a debriefing where pilots analyzed the recent battle, looking for ways to improve their tactics. Every lesson learned, every mistake identified, made them stronger for the next fight. Commander Wu's stealth ships continued to patrol the edges of the solar system, watching for any Council movement. Her crews had become expert at hiding in plain sight, a skill that would prove valuable in the coming conflict. Director De sat in her office, reviewing intelligence from the spy network Wu Jin maintained across Council space. She smiled slightly as she read the latest reports. The Council thought they were preparing in secret for a second assault. They had no idea that Earth knew every detail of their plans, sometimes before the Council's own admirals did. The first battle had been about survival. Earth had proven it could defend itself. The next battle would be about something bigger. It would be about freedom, not just for humanity, but for every species tired of living under the Council's thumb. And Earth was ready. The Second Council fleet was massive beyond anything the galaxy had seen in generations. 1,000 warships assembled at the rendezvous point, drawing vessels from every corner of Council space. Chancellor, who had barely survived the first battle, now commanded from a new flagship even larger than the inevitable. This time, there would be no mistakes. "All ships report ready, Chancellor," his new tactical officer reported. "The fleet is organized into 5 battle groups. We have scout ships ahead, flanking forces on both sides, and reserve units ready to respond to any ambush." Mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Good. The humans caught us off guard before. That won't happen again. We will crush them utterly, then make an example of their planet. Let the galaxy see what happens to species who defy the Council." What didn't know was that Specialist Jin sat in a quiet room deep within Earth's Defense Command, her fingers dancing across holographic keyboards. She was arguably humanity's best cyber warfare expert, and she had spent weeks studying the Council fleet's computer systems through the spy network Wu Jin maintained. "Admiral Yang," Jin reported through her headset, "I'm ready to deploy the virus. When you give the word, I can disrupt their fleet coordination for approximately 10 minutes. 10 minutes may be all we need," Yang replied from his command center. "Stand by." The Council fleet entered Earth's solar system with overwhelming confidence. This time, they emerged much farther out, well beyond the range of the plasma lances on Mars. They moved slowly, carefully, scouts checking every asteroid and moon for hidden human forces. Captain watched them from the bridge of the Indomitable, Earth's and most powerful warship. The ship had been built in absolute secrecy over the past 2 years, incorporating every lesson learned from studying Council technology and every innovation human engineers could devise. Its reactor was a miniaturized version of what powered the plasma lances, providing enough energy for shields stronger than anything the Council had encountered. "They're being cautious this time," observed's first officer. "No arrogant rush to Earth." "Good," said, "let them feel safe. The trap isn't the same one twice." Among the Council fleet, crews from dozens of different species performed their duties. Many of them had seen Earth's broadcast revealing the Council's exploitation. Some were angry at the humans for causing trouble. Others were angry at the Council for the lies. And a few, like Commander of the Kelvin frigate, had been waiting for this moment. And his crew had discussed Earth's offer at length. The Kelvin people had served the Council for nearly a century, providing minerals and soldiers, receiving little in return except demands for more. Had lost friends in Council wars that had nothing to do with protecting his. When Earth offered an alternative, many Kelvin had listened. Now, as the fleet approached Earth, sent a carefully coded message to 3 other Kelvin ships in the fleet. 4 words: "Ready when you are." The Council fleet crossed the orbit of Jupiter, and still no attack came. Began to relax slightly. Perhaps the humans had spent all their surprises in the first battle. Perhaps they realized the futility of fighting a force this large. That's when Jin activated her virus. The malicious code had been inserted into the Council's fleet coordination network weeks ago, hidden in routine software updates that passed through multiple security checks. It waited patiently until Jin sent the activation signal, then it struck like a knife in the dark. Across the Council fleet, command and control systems suddenly failed. Ships lost contact with each other. Tactical displays showed conflicting information. Communication channels dissolved into static. The carefully organized battle groups found themselves isolated, unable to coordinate with the rest of the fleet. "What's happening?" roared as his tactical displays went blank. "Get those systems back online." "We're trying, sir. It's some kind of virus, and it's spread through the entire network." In that moment of confusion, Captain gave the order, "All units attack now." The Indomitable burst from its hiding place in Saturn's rings, shields glowing with barely contained energy. Behind it came 50 other human ships, no longer hiding, weapons armed and ready. They drove straight into the Council fleet's left flank, targeting the ships whose crews were frantically trying to restore their computer systems. At the same moment, Commander Wu's stealth squadron struck from the opposite direction. 70 ships that the Council scouts had somehow missed materialized and opened fire. The Council fleet, unable to coordinate a response, fought as isolated units rather than as a unified force. Lieutenant's fighter squadron screamed through the chaos, targeting communication arrays and sensor clusters, ensuring the Council ship stayed blind and confused as long as possible. Her pilots moved with absolute precision, a dance they had practiced countless times in simulation and now executed perfectly in reality. But the real surprise came from within the Council fleet itself. Commander waited until his ship was in perfect position, then broadcast on an open channel. "This is Commander of the Kelvin ship. We stand with Earth. Kelvin ships, break formation and engage Council forces." 4 Kelvin ships immediately changed course, their weapons targeting Council vessels instead of human ones. The surprise was total. Council ships that had been fighting humans suddenly found themselves under attack from their own supposed allies. Traitors screamed, but more ships were breaking away. A heavy cruiser powered up its weapons and fired on a Council command ship. "The people reject Council authority. We fight for freedom." A formation of 6 ships from a species called the Meridian joined the rebellion, their sleek vessels adding their firepower to the growing chaos. Across the fleet, species that Earth had secretly contacted over the past weeks made their choice, abandoning the Council and joining the fight for independence. The battle became a 3-way nightmare. Council loyalists fought rebel aliens who fought human forces, except the humans and rebels had coordinated their attack while the Council forces remained scattered and confused. Ships fired in all directions. Some Council vessels, unsure who was friend or enemy, simply tried to escape. Captain brought the Indomitable directly alongside its flagship. The Council ship fired everything it had, but the Indomitable's shields held firm, the new reactor providing power that no Council weapon could overcome. Returned fire with measured precision, systematically destroying the flagship's weapons, engines, and finally its shield generators. "This is Captain to the Council flagship. Surrender now, or I will destroy your ship." On his bridge, surrounded by emergency lights and the screams of dying crew members, faced the reality of his situation. His fleet was broken, his authority shattered, and a human warship more powerful than anything he'd imagined possible had him completely at its mercy. I surrender," whispered, the words bitter in his mouth. Commander Young led his ground forces in a completely different kind of battle. A Council landing force had managed to reach one of Earth's moon bases before the fleet battle began, attempting to secure a foothold. But the aliens had never fought humans in close quarters. The narrow corridors of the moon base became a nightmare for the Council troops. Humans moved through the tight spaces like they were born to them, using tactics drawn from centuries of urban warfare experience. The aliens, used to open-field battles, couldn't adapt fast enough. "Go," Young shouted, and his team tossed disorienting grenades around corners before rushing in. The alien soldiers, their enhanced senses overwhelmed by the bright light and noise, fell to precise human fire before they could react. Within 3 hours, the moon base was secure, with Council survivors surrendering to human forces who treated them as prisoners of war rather than enemies to be exterminated. As the space battle wound down, Admiral Yang surveyed the results from his command center. The Council fleet was decimated. Of the original 1,000 ships, only 300 remained combat capable, and most of those were in full retreat. 200 ships had been destroyed in the fighting. The rest had either surrendered or belonged to the rebel species who now fought alongside Earth. More importantly, Earth had gained crucial allies. The Kelvin, Meridian, and 5 other species had openly broken with the Council, committing their forces to what they now called the Free Worlds Coalition. "Send a message to all ships," Yang ordered. "Cease fire. Accept all surrenders. Treat prisoners with respect. This isn't about revenge, it's about freedom." In the council chambers back on the council's home station, Counselor watched the battle reports with growing horror. His fleet was broken. Member species were rebelling. The council's authority was crumbling before his eyes. Counselor stood and addressed the remaining delegates. "The old council is finished. We can either accept this reality and negotiate a new arrangement, or we can continue fighting and lose everything. I propose we contact Ambassador HFY and discuss terms for peace." For the first time in 300 years, the Galactic Council faced a reality where it wasn't in control. The galaxy was changing, and Earth had been the catalyst. 3 months after the second battle, representatives from 23 different species gathered in a newly constructed station orbiting Earth. The building had been rushed to completion specifically for this purpose, a neutral ground where the future of the galaxy could be decided. Ambassador HFY stood at the entrance, personally greeting each delegation as they arrived. "Welcome to Hope Station," she said to each group, using the name humanity had given their first true diplomatic outpost. "Thank you for coming." The Kelvin delegation, led by Commander who had been promoted to Admiral after his actions in the battle, clasped HFY's hand in the human gesture of greeting they had learned. "It is we who should thank you. Without Earth's courage, my people would still be sending our children to die in the Council's wars." Similar sentiments echoed from other delegations. The Meridian, the Vex, and a dozen other species who had broken away from the old Council all expressed their gratitude and their hope for a better future. But not everyone was happy. Counselor attended the meeting because he had no choice, his authority shattered but his pride still intact. He sat in the corner of the Great Hall, surrounded by representatives from the few species that remained loyal to the old council structure. The first session began with a simple question: what should replace the Galactic Council? "We propose the Free Worlds Coalition," HFY explained, pulling up holographic displays showing the proposed structure. "Every member species has equal voting rights, regardless of size or military strength. No species can force another to provide resources or military service. Technology and knowledge are shared freely among members. And most importantly, the coalition exists to protect its members, not to exploit them." "Idealistic nonsense," muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "The galaxy needs structure, needs leadership. Without the Council's guidance, there will be chaos." Counselor, who now represented the growing faction supporting Earth's proposal, stood to respond. The galaxy had structure under the old council. It also had exploitation, corruption, and endless wars fought to benefit a few powerful species at the expense of many weaker ones. Perhaps it's time to try something different. The debate continued for hours, with representatives arguing various points. Some worried about security without a unified military command. Others feared that equality would mean the more advanced species would have to share too much with less developed worlds. And a few, simply couldn't accept a galaxy where they weren't in charge. Admiral Yang attended as an observer, watching the political maneuvering with the eye of a soldier who had spent his career preparing for war. He sat next to Director De, who had her own observations. "Is planning something," De whispered. "My sources say he's been in contact with mercenary fleets, offering them payment to strike at Earth and our allies." "Can you prove it?" Yang asked quietly. "Not yet, but Wu Jin is working on it. If he's using council communication networks to hire mercenaries, we'll find the evidence." As the diplomatic talks continued, Captain Wu led a joint fleet on a very different mission. The Free Worlds Coalition had identified 7 colony worlds still under old council control, where the local populations wanted independence. These colonies were heavily defended by council forces, making direct assault costly. Instead, Wu used the tactics that had proven so effective against the council fleets. His ships arrived at the first target, a mining colony called Vertex Prime, and immediately broadcast a message to everyone on the planet. "This is Captain Wu of the Free Worlds Coalition. We are here to offer you a choice. You can remain under council control or you can join us in freedom. The choice is yours, but know this, the council's garrison here is surrounded. Their supply lines are cut. They can leave peacefully or they can stay and face defeat. We'd prefer peace." The council garrison commander, a proud warrior from Species, initially refused. But when half his troops, conscripts from the very colony they were supposed to control, and joined the locals in demanding freedom, he had little choice. The garrison surrendered without a shot being fired. This pattern repeated across 6 more worlds. The Council's military forces, undermanned and demoralized after 2 crushing defeats, couldn't hold territory when the local populations actively wanted them gone. Within 2 months, the Free Worlds Coalition had more than doubled in size. On Mars, Engineer Sangwoo was doing something unprecedented. Species from across the coalition sent their best scientists and engineers to learn from and collaborate with humanity. In workshops and laboratories carved into the Martian surface, beings from a dozen different worlds worked together on new technologies. "This is amazing," said an engineer, studying Sangwoo's plasma lance designs. "Our species has been building ships for the Council for a century, but they never let us design anything new. They wanted us to build, not to think." Sangwoo smiled. "Well, now you can both build and think. What improvements can you suggest?" The collaboration produced innovations none of the species could have achieved alone. Human creativity met manufacturing expertise, met Kelvin materials science, met meridian energy systems. Within weeks, they had designed weapons and shields superior to anything the old council possessed. Lieutenant found herself in an unexpected role: teacher. Pilots from coalition species came to Earth to learn human fighter tactics. Many of the aliens had flown ships before, but always in rigid formations dictated by council doctrine, taught them to think independently, to adapt, to improvise. "Your people fly like a school of fish," one alien pilot observed during a training session. "You move together, but each pilot makes their own decisions. How do you not crash into each other?" "Trust," replied simply. "We trust each other to do our jobs. We train together until we can predict what each pilot will do. Then, in combat, we don't need orders for everything. We see an opportunity, we take it." The alien pilots struggled at first with this concept. The Council had trained them to follow orders precisely, to never deviate from the plan. Learning to trust their instincts and there took time. But gradually, they began to understand, and their flying improved dramatically. Commander Wu worked with Coalition intelligence services, teaching them the stealth and infiltration tactics her squadron had perfected. She trained crews from 6 different species in the art of hiding in plain sight, of gathering intelligence without being detected, of striking from the shadows. "The Council always relied on overwhelming force," Wu explained to her students. "They never learned subtlety because they never needed it. That's their weakness and our strength." Back at Hope Station, after 3 weeks of negotiation, the delegations finally reached an agreement. The Free Worlds Coalition would become the official alliance of all member species. 23 species signed the founding charter, with more expected to join in the coming months. The old Galactic Council would continue to exist, but only for the species that chose to remain part of it, and 6 other species refused to join the coalition, insisting that the old ways were better. They signed a peace treaty with the coalition, agreeing to respect each other's borders and to settle disputes through diplomacy rather than warfare. Ambassador HFY knew the peace was fragile. His faction still commanded significant military forces, and their pride had been wounded. But for now, there was peace, and that was enough. During the signing ceremony, HFY stood before the assembled delegates and spoke words that would echo across the galaxy. Today, we begin something new. Not an empire, not a hierarchy, but a true coalition of free and equal peoples. We came together not because we're the same, but because we share common values: freedom, dignity, and the right of every species to determine their own future. She paused, looking around the great hall at the diverse beings gathered there. The old council believed that strength came from domination, from forcing others to submit. They were wrong. True strength comes from unity, from cooperation, from respecting each other's differences while working toward common goals. Earth didn't start this revolution seeking power. We started it seeking only to protect ourselves. But in defending our freedom, we showed others that freedom was possible. We became a catalyst for change, not through conquest but through example. Let this coalition be that example to the entire galaxy. Let it prove that there is another way, a better way. And let any who would threaten our freedom know this: we will defend it together with every resource and every ounce of courage we possess. The delegates rose in a standing ovation, their various forms of applause filling the chamber with sound. Admiral Yang watched the ceremony from the observation deck above, standing beside Captain Wu, Commander Wu, Lieutenant, and the other officers who had fought to make this moment possible. "Did we do the right thing?" Wu asked quietly. "We've changed the galaxy forever." Yang considered the question carefully. Below, beings from 24 species mingled freely, sharing ideas and forming friendships. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy had hope for something better than endless conflict and exploitation. "I think we did," Yang finally said. "We couldn't control what the council would do. We could only control how we responded. We chose to fight for our freedom and to offer that same freedom to others. History will judge whether we were right, but I can live with the choice we made." Director D approached them, a slight smile on her face. "Wu Jin just confirmed it. We have proof of hearing mercenaries. But here's the interesting part. 3 mercenary groups he contacted refused the job and sent us his messages instead. Apparently, our reputation has spread. Nobody wants to fight humans and their allies." Wu laughed. "We went from being unknown to being feared in less than a year. That might be a galactic record." "Let's hope we're not just feared," added. "Let's hope we're also respected." In the following months, the coalition grew stronger. More species joined, drawn by the promise of equality and freedom. Trade networks developed, sharing prosperity across member worlds. The coalition fleet, combining ships and crews from many species, became a force capable of defending against any threat. Earth's solar system became a hub of activity, with ships from across the galaxy coming to trade, to learn, to form partnerships. Humanity, so recently alone among the stars, now found itself at the center of a new galactic civilization. But Yang made sure Earth never forgot the lessons of the war. The military remained strong, the weapons remained sharp, and the training never stopped. Peace was precious, but it had to be defended. In a quiet moment, Ambassador HFY stood looking at Earth from Hope Station's observation deck. The planet glowed blue and beautiful against the stars. She thought about how close they had come to losing it all, how a less courageous choice would have meant surrender and subjugation. Instead, humanity had fought back, and in fighting for their freedom, they had given an entire galaxy hope for a better future. "They thought we were weak because we were young," she whispered to herself, remembering the words she would speak at the next coalition gathering. "They forgot that every apex predator was once prey. We didn't just survive. We evolved, and we brought the galaxy with us."